Hello, everyone. Email and Coffee, Joy Brooks here. I'm talking today with Nicky Copland, and we're talking about artificial intelligence. So before we get into the topic, let's introduce Nicky. Go ahead. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Nikki. I am a content marketer and writer currently at Socket Labs, the email sending solution. I'm based in Indianapolis. I've worked in all manner of industries, and right now I'm kind of focused on B2B SaaS.
Cool. So we met on LinkedIn and we were talking about artificial intelligence, and I'm like completely spooked by it, for better or for worse. What do you think about it?
I think that AI needs to get off my lawn. Frankly, I feel like it's kind of strange watching that world develop around me. It kind of feels like a Jetsons kind of invasion where, computers are really starting to do things that are beyond just helpful. It's not Alexa turning my lights on for me remotely. It's replicating human thought and creation. So from a personal perspective, I'm a little spooked too. And from a professional perspective, it's a mixed bag. It's bittersweet for me.
Yeah, I'm spooked because I'm aware it's not going to take my job, but it's going to take a lot of jobs. The reason I say it's not going to take my job is because I'll probably be retired, but you won't.
I won't.
And if people don't think that it's going to take jobs, I mean, I read somewhere that it says that a market for cloud-based payroll software is valued at 7.8 billion in 2018, and it's anticipated to hit 13.37 billion in 2026. So companies are increasingly eager to invest in AI-supported payroll services. So there goes your payroll department.
Yeah.
Apparently, right now chatbots are the frontline customer service agents. So anytime you try to chat with anybody, you're not chatting with a body, you're chatting with a chatbot. And then when you make the phone call, you're not talking with somebody, you're talking with a voice bot. And at some point in time, it will be the norm. But right now, I'm like, I'd like to speak with an agent.
Yeah, I think it's still a toss-up based on who is doing at least some sort of organic customer service on the internet, and some who have completely automated it, like completely outsourced the whole thing. I think that in time, it's not going to be a mix anymore. It's going to be solely bot-driven.
Content for business.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think?
What do I think about content for business? I feel like there's a big split, and I think that it's important to kind of talk through that right off the bat, where there's writing and there's a business applications writing, but then there's marketing and content marketing where that's exclusively a business application. So I think that content marketers will have some longevity even with AI because there's involved a strategy in how you use content. It's not necessarily just the creation of content. But when it comes to writing in a business sense, I think that is where the line starts to get not just blurry, but dotted, because at some point, those dots turn into completely erased disconnect between a human's ability to communicate with professionalism, but also a human element, and is able to kind of speak to the audience with also the viewpoint of the business they're writing for, to have an authentic conversation. I think that from what I'm seeing with some of the AI technology that's coming out today, it can fool you. It is very well put together. And if you look closely, you can see some nuance that indicates that maybe this wasn't created by a human, but it's becoming harder and harder to tell what was written by a human. And if you think of writing as either a business writing or creative writing, business writing is really easy to take over from a computer because there's a set of goals. You can input an audience, you can input keywords and value props and differentiators. If you can throw that into a software, it can spit out any number of ways to say something, 10 times more than I can come up with different ways to say something. And on the writer side of me is definitely where the spooked part comes from, because I do believe that based on what I'm seeing today, even the technology is going to get so good that you're just not going to know the difference. And what does that do for people who make their money based on, writing for companies? I don't think the future is that bright there.
Blog posts, gone. Content for websites, gone.
Certainly that, yes.
Email marketing, gone. Short content, gone. Now, social, if you can get the artificial intelligence to emote, social is gone. It will do social as well because it's short content. You could basically say, give me, 120 words about, snack bars and try to make me eat one and let it roll. And it'll come out with, okay, this is a great, it'll come out with some snappy stuff.
Yeah.
I've tried it, and so I know. And I'm as guilty as anyone else because I use it. I know. And I've got to check it.
Certainly. Yeah.
Check it, but I'm using it because sometimes I run out of ideas. The point is if you're selling shoes and you've only got a few pair or selling socks and, basically, what else can you say about it? You can come up with lots of stuff, but after 5 years, what are you going to say about it? Will it be able to come up with strategy? I think so.
I hope so.
I know.
I mean, anything is possible, right?
I think it's still growing, and we're trying to get the software to learn from itself. So if we can get it to learn from itself, it can build strategy. And I haven't asked ChatGPT to build a strategy. I did ask it how to rob a bank, and it told me that it was unethical to do that. And that was good. I wanted to hear that. I also
but I mean, good on it.
I asked Cleverbot how to rob a bank. What was the best way to rob a bank? And it came back and it said, be a banker.
That is clever. Okay. I like that one. I might have said that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but the point is that if Cleverbot can come back and be snarky, then what's to say they can't build something that can figure it out?
Right.
And if with GPT, which is an open AI product, they've built ethics into it. So if you start asking it rude things, it'll come back and tell you that, that's rude. We're not going to even deal with that. But if it knows that, then all you need to do is wipe out that ethics in it. And now you've got a machine that can do whatever you want. And if that machine thinks over time, now you've got an unethical, smart, automated. That's what spooks me. That's what spooks me. A car is not evil, but when it runs someone over, it is. Right? Now, I'm not saying a car knows that it can run someone over. I'm just saying it was never built to be an evil thing. And that it can do evil things is only because we never programmed it not to. It never occurred to us that it would happen like this. So they put the machine out there. They started selling millions of them and they started having accidents and, all these things started to happen. What's going to happen is that AI is going to come out without ethics. And how can you ethically govern it? How?
I mean, you have to put faith in the humans that are somehow controlling it to do the right thing or to keep up with whatever is evolving within the technology. But I feel like if there's anything, is there anything less fallible than a human? I don't think so. So not a lot of safeguards there.
With artwork, I was listening to someone say, okay, you could say paint like Picasso, and it will give you a painting like Picasso. But you can't tell it to create a new genre. Right now, it can't do that.
Yeah, I suppose that's where art can kind of live on, because that's true. You can't give it any data that doesn't exist already. So if somebody hasn't invented something, if somebody hasn't put themselves out in such a way that it is completely unique and authentic experience, you can't give the data to the computer. The data doesn't exist. But unfortunately, I do think that there's a finite amount of creativity in this world, and at some point, everything's been done. It just feels like everything's been done. And of course, not everything has been done. But there's that in-between period between like revolutionary ideas that you could cover the most common basis with something like AI while you wait for a new medium to be discovered, or a new application of human experience to be discovered. So in those interim periods, you are kind of at the mercy of what AI can do next. Is it going to be faster than a computer? Is it going to be faster than humans? It could be, depending on what kind of application you're looking at. But it's just...
If you're able to get it to think on its own, then you could say, create a new mode of animation, have it come out of the Polish culture for that audience.
Yeah.
And it will come up, give me 4 characters. And it will. It will. And then all you do is say, now animate it. And it will. We're not ready for that now. But I could go to Chat, and I have ChatGPT, and I said, I'd like a synopsis for a story. Make it historical fiction about Alexander the Great. And it gave me 4 paragraphs to start a synopsis. And then I said, okay, give me a story about a historical fiction about Alexander the Great based upon the point of view of Barsine, and it did. It gave me exactly that. And if I was confused about what I wanted to write before, now I can sit down and say, oh, you know what? I hadn't thought of that. Maybe I can do something here. So the next thing I could do is ask it for an epilogue. Ask it for possibly, a climactic moment. What would be the high point in this novel? I mean, it could literally give me all the elements that I need, and I could go off and create it. But it's sort of like now it's sort of like that person that writing group that you would be sitting with over coffee, saying, "What are you doing?" And they would say, "Oh, I'm really stuck on my book. This is where I'm going. What do you think? Oh, what about this?" And the other person, "What about that? And what about the other thing?" Now you're talking to a computer. Nobody gets tired. Nobody needs coffee, and you don't have to go out of your house. And everybody shows up.
That's true. But as a writer myself, and I will be fully transparent in that I write more business content now than I do creative content, simply because I put all of myself into that. That's my job. But I think part of the writer's creative process, I feel like it's rejecting those kinds of parameters. I think that the value in coming to a workshop and saying, look, read these last 2 pages. Like, I'm trying to get there. There's something that I'm missing. I think a human can look at it and tell you, you're missing heart. This interaction that you've written here, it makes sense on a surface level, but I'm not getting the feelings attached to these people. I don't know that a computer can tell you that. Yeah. I don't think it can today, and maybe it could someday, but I think that there is still a human experience that you can't code. And I think that real artists, and I don't even know if I would consider myself a real artist. I write for fun when I can. But I think the artistic process comes with a set of, like you said, ethics, where a computer doesn't have ethics, but I think an artist does. And I think that some will want to branch into different kinds of applications of their art. Like, oh, I'm a really good illustrator. Why don't I try to use this technology and see what happens, and then I'll iterate on it? Sure. But I do think that there is also an element of an artist that says, there is something that I can bring to the world that nobody else can, computer or human.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you apply AI in a situation where you look at art in a more narrow sense, because I do think business writing is still art. I think there's so much that goes into a well-crafted message to sell a product or service that doesn't make it feel like you're selling to them, but you connect to them in some way. You relate to their pain or their discomfort or their angst, and you offer them a solution. You help them see the light somehow. And whether or not they purchase your product or their service, they feel seen. They now know that there is a way to solve their problem. If they so choose to do it that way, that's great. They can find another way, but you've still connected to them. So I think that artistic process can be maintained by people who really believe that writing or art is something that can only be experienced truly through the heart, eyes, and brain of a human.
We see it through. So we may start writing something and suddenly an experience kicks in. And then we're writing to that experience that the computer's never had.
Exactly.
We need to tell the computer. We need to tell the artificial intelligence, okay, well, in the past, you had a car accident. So, when you're in that car, you're feeling panic and you can't breathe. And when you see another car coming, you have to explain that experience, and it still won't get it. It's only getting what you're telling it. Yeah. And, you can't. And so, if you're an artist and you're painting something, again, something's going to hit you. You're like, that color needs to be different because I remember, when I was looking, whatever it is. Again, the computer can't look at that. It's replicating mathematically a shadow. And you may, on purpose, remove that shadow for an effect. It won't, because it's not creating at that level where you're saying, okay, something, I want to do this realistic painting and there won't be any shadows. And I want that to be stark reality. Like, that's the piece. You would have to tell that to the computer.
At what point does it become more work to communicate your idea than it is to let that idea through your fingers, You're
literally creating it in your head, mind, and body, and then you're shoving it into a computer and then waiting for it to come out. Also, isn't it part of the process for the artist, whether it's a writer or artist, an illustrator or a painter or whatever? Isn't that, whatever the pain is, isn't that the process that we enjoy? So that at the end, we're like, I can't believe this is exactly what I wanted to say. And whether it's business or any other kind of writing, creative writing, poetry, whatever. I mean, there's nothing there for you to. There's no human celebration in it. It's like, okay, it's done. When somebody, I have seen or listened to people that say, give me some rap in the genre of Tupac, and they do it.
I've seen that, yeah.
And they do it, right? And it's good, but where is the human celebration? Where is that pain? Because isn't that what rap is? Isn't there supposed to be that raw edge? It's not supposed to be perfectly rhyming, funny stuff that I just warn the world. I warn the world, be careful for what you wish for. because especially in marketing right now,
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh, it's in marketing, you've got to do automation workflows, big thing, and everybody's becoming automation specialists. Well, what happens when those automations can be automatically automated? Like right now, and progressively more and more, you go into an ESP or some sort of a platform,
Yeah.
and it has cart abandonment all set up for you.
Yeah.
It has the welcome campaign all set up for you. It has browser abandonment. It has VIP. It's all set up. All you need to do is tweak it. So now you don't need that specialist.
Yes. I think that to some extent, I fully agree. And then to another extent, I feel somewhat conflicted because I feel like there are so many different disciplines between marketing writing. So, I would say I'm a better long form writer. And I guess if you consider blogs long form,
Yes.
I've done everything. I don't enjoy social media writing anymore. I am not a good sales writer. I'm not good at writing emails. I have a hard time expressing things as concisely as you need to in shorter forms of writing. So as a practitioner myself, I totally see the desire and I understand wanting to have some of that outsourced to something like a computer that I can put some data in and it'll spit something out at me. And then as a writer, I feel like I can probably go back and adjust it to how I think it should look. But that being said, what should it look like? I think that there's so many different approaches to sales outreach. So, I wrote some sales emails for my friend at Socket Labs, and it just wasn't right. And so I tried again and I did it very differently, and it just wasn't right. And so I think that if a human has a hard time coming up with the exact right approach or something that at least feels like this will be successful, I don't think you're going to get the same. You're certainly not going to get it right from a computer the very first time. And then how much time are you spending fixing that? Would you rather have ChatGPT run you 4 different sales emails and you still don't like any of the 4? Or would you rather, and then you have to spend your time fixing those until they are what you need it to be? Wouldn't you rather just try it yourself and get it to a place exactly what you envision in your head? Like, I guess.
Well, that is the
to,
method now. That would be what you want to do now, but I don't know where that would be later. Because as I said, right now, it can't think for itself. It will. In 5 years, it will. It will fix itself.
It can, yeah.
And so, it's not 10 or 20 years away.
No, I don't think so.
It's not, it's here tomorrow. It's here today and here tomorrow. And I've had a lot of people, when I talk to them about email marketing and they talk about ESPs, and they'll say, well, this ESP does that. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but you're going to need to go in there and tweak it. Well, it's running right now. I'm like, okay. And what am I'm not going there, because the reason they chose the ESP is because sales sold them these tools in the box, ready to go.
Yeah.
And they were sold that they don't need to spend any extra money. And that's what they wanted. They came to the ESP with a budget, were sold according to that budget, and now they're happy. They think they're happy. And you can't unconvince them. And that's what's going to happen over time. Right now, I read a book, you read a book. Not a lot of people read books.
It's very true.
Not a lot of people read anything.
That's
so it's going to get to a point where, you do this type of a thing. That's it. The call to action. Here's what you want. Do this. It's going to be really short and sweet. So I fear Here goes that the voice of gloom and doom. I fear that it's going to we're going to the goal is to free up our time. I don't know for what. Free up our time to do other things. Okay. The truth is, the goal is to make it less expensive and to get it done quicker. That's the goal. Not to free us up so we could do other things. That's what we think, but business is saying
other things could be growing new business or
yes.
It's still not making your life any easier. It's just making your job easier. And then, yeah.
I think certainly, I think that businesses with a heart and a mission and a true calling will prevail.
I hope so.
Right? But there'll be a lot of other going on. A lot.
Yeah. I think that, I hate to admit it. I hate to admit that I do believe that at some point it'll be easier and cheaper to outsource writing to a computer, and it'll get good enough that you just need a cursory check on what it says, no typos, makes sense, reads like a human wrote it, whatever. I think that it would be naive to believe that wouldn't happen. And I think that although I'm kind of a traditional person when it comes to content, I do love ebooks. I think there's a lot to get from a blog. I've come to the realization myself that I will extinct myself. If I don't start learning new things. When I started in marketing, when I got out of college, I was a social media marketing expert. Like I was sought after because nobody else was doing what I was doing, because the timing was such that I had, social media was emerging. And today, if you don't know how to make a cogent tweet, you probably, you're antiquated now. You have to have that skill set now because it's just so common. I need to learn new things because what was new for me 10 years ago is ancient history.
Right.
Ancient history. So I've been looking at, how do we apply video to our practice? How do we do comics? How do we integrate? I'm a big GIF girl, or GIF, if we want to start a war. I try to put those wherever I can because I think that it gives you so much more personality, and it's not just expecting people to read. And I think the ability to kind of add those human touches to writing is great. And I don't know how, I'm sure that can be taken over too. But if you're not reinventing yourself as a writer, or as a marketer, a content marketer in particular, you do really run the risk of that job just simply evaporating because everything around you will evolve. And as much as it pains me to say that at some point, I might find blogs just ineffective. I might. I'll need to have something else to do. Or like you said, there won't be anything for me to do.
Most likely the concept, not the blog itself, but the advertorial that the blog has turned into.
Yeah.
That will go away because
yes,
the chat bot will be, or Google will be able to find more important, or be able to tell you all about the product.
Right.
Perhaps instead of having to read about it, you might be able to say, I need a pair of shoes. I like brown. What does DSW have in stock? And it'll come back and show you.
Mm-hmm.
You just talk it into your computer, and it's going to come back and give you 15 pairs of shoes. And it will say, which one do you want to buy? And you'll buy it. So you won't, you won't necessarily need to read how great DSW is or what it's doing for the world, that it just did all this great work so that you feel good about it. All of that stuff will go away. A lot of that concept. And you're right. They'll need to think of other ways along with the new technology of getting that human content out, or where the human content still is effective.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll have to find ways of doing that. When you watch futuristic movies, and they have, I'm trying to think of the name of the movie. I can't remember. They had all the futuristic movies have very large billboards,
Mm-hmm.
really large, and they're androids. They're human beings, androids that are interacting with people, right? And even though that's an android and it's probably being computer generated, what I'm saying is there's probably human interaction in creating that concept, right? In other words, where you'll be needed would be to create these new venues that a computer can then do the rest of the work. But you need to create them. The computer won't be able to, because it won't really be able to feel. It never will be able to feel like us. You could ask it, give me about 15 different ways to accent this, and it will do that. And then you'll need to be able to take those and inject humanity into it. It won't be able to do it itself. So hopefully not. So, it's not like you're going to become a professional dog walker, although, hello.
I wouldn't hate it.
Right? Or I wouldn't hate it. But, we will be, the thinkers will be creating, the workers will still be working, and the in-between will go away. Or the in-between won't have anything to do.
Yeah. I think maybe that's how content marketers and writers in particular, business writers in particular, I think that is probably how you start to evolve. Like you said, there's the creators and the doers. I mean, who is going to be telling the computer what to do? That's got to be somebody with the knowledge set and the skills to be able to put a cogent thought into the computer, to get a cogent thought out. So I guess you can consider the future for somebody like me who prefers writing, that I can still probably be a great authority in what I should put into a ChatGPT to get something decent out. But then your question becomes, is that what you want to do? Is that how I want to spend my time? I don't think it would be a secret to anybody who knows me that I don't like video. I don't like watching videos to learn something. It just is not how I understand things. I don't have the mind for writing emails, or I don't have the mind for infographics. I can't, if you don't even, my doodles, it's like my son who's 6 is like the best doodler in the house. I can't do any of that. But if I don't have the ability to write anymore, because somebody else is going to write for me, all I have to do is plug something in. Does marketing even have a place for me? I don't have graphic design skills.
Do we even need marketing?
Well, truly. And I think that having one or two strategists, maybe, if you can find ways to use AI for graphic design, if you can find AI to dub voice over video, if you can make a video from a computer who can string images together properly. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the capabilities are. My brain is much too small. But I think that people in marketing really do have to start considering how many skills can I learn that's outside of the skills that I have, but also don't make me want to die, frankly. Like, if I had to go back to social media, I would be unhappy and I would look for something else. If I had to learn how to do graphic design, I'd choose not to. And I think so you kind of get to not just practical, like, oh, can I do this? I'm sure I could do anything I wanted to do if I tried really hard. Probably not math, but other stuff. If I tried really hard, I could probably do it. But what do you want to be doing when something like writing, which I've built my whole career around and that I enjoy and I really love, gets replaced by a computer.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the dark side for
Mm-hmm.
me. And I think that's part of the denial that I think I live in when it comes to AI and writing and business in particular. Like, I don't want to even face the future where the extent of my writing is putting some words into an application that just spits out something that I should have wrote myself.
Mm-hmm. It's scary. But here, think of something like this. Now, TikTok is AI driven. It's not,
I don't use it.
it's not, the content is not AI driven. How it's delivered is AI driven.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the whole premise. So if you're a writer and somebody's now writing, you're done. TikTok came out and created a way for lots of different creative people to get their content out. Did anybody think that it was going to be great for people who bake and cook at home, that they could do their recipes, right? And humans are going to need to do that. So, I mean, the things that can be done on TikTok or any short form, and that's video, obviously, things that can be done in a short form of video, which is highly digestible and lots of people like to watch. That's where the creativity is. And though that, I'm picking TikTok, but I'm saying those are the types of things that the computer will not be able to create. We can't say, create some new thing for everybody to do. It's not going to know what to do. But if it has a particular experience set, it's going to say, I like to do these things. And here is a place that I could do those things. I'm going to create a presence for myself doing those things. There was a time when everybody was doing the ice bucket thing and that was nonsense. But everybody loved it.
Everybody wants to be famous, I think.
Right.
I think everybody hopes that one post, like the one moment that they have, is just going to rocket them to some sort of stardom.
In some cases it does, oddly enough.
In some cases it does.
In some cases, but I mean, if there's nothing else, if there's a vacuum there other than ice, then it ends right there. But but if I have seen, I know, because I got stuck on looking at animal and recipe TikToks. Or, Instagrams. I don't know what they are. They're just being served up quickly. And I'm like, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. So if I were, could I decide, what I'm going to do? I'm going to read books. I'm going to read books and act them out. Short stories. I don't know. I'm coming up with nonsense for the sake of nonsense. But a human would come up with something like this, using something that exists instead of, writing isn't something that people do anymore. So it's over with. So I'm still going to have that creativity. And honestly, here is probably the life-saving concept, perhaps. Maybe you'll be able to sleep tonight. Many thousands of years ago, before there was even writing, right? We told stories. And they were by, they had rhythm because it was a way for us to remember them. Otherwise, we'd be like, and then she said, what did she say? I can't remember what she said. But, you know what she said? It rhymed with the last word that she said. I remember it now. So, they told stories, and that's how they entertained each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then they created writing. And then Gutenberg created the press, and then they created books, right? And so business writing may be taken. It may no longer be a viable career to business write. It may not. It may not be a viable career to market. It may not. These things may go, but we'll still be creative. We'll be creating the next whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Will there be a huge divide between the creators and the non-creators? Yes. I mean, it is that way right now, and it's going to be even more so, because you can get a writing hack and be halfway decent and do it, and get paid and, get a salary. You can be in marketing and get paid and, essentially push papers around a desk, but eventually, effectively get your job done and affect the bottom line and be useful to the organization. But once that's taken over, once customer service is taken over by robots and, the whole, basically, everything except that high-end creativity, will be, there'll be there's going to be another revolution. There's going to be another revolution.
There will be. Yeah. I believe that as well.
And, that maybe will make you not sleep. But the point is that out of all of these things, the Renaissance brought incredible artwork. And it didn't come out of the Dark Ages, because it really wasn't the Dark Ages. We just don't have any anything from that age. It just didn't make it through. They'll say for us, they'll say that because let's say the computers get fried, there's no electricity, and computers get burned up, fried up, whatever. And they'll say, oh, there was a dark age between 1970, and they'll call it the Dark Ages, because there won't be any content. It will all be digital. Oh, they didn't do anything. There are barely any books. They're only the classics, because everything's digital. So during the Dark Ages, it was just done differently. They weren't sitting around, moping around, not doing anything. They were very creative. But the creativity hasn't been passed through the record. That's what's dark. So the creativity kept building and building and building, and things like Leonardo da Vinci and all of these fabulous things happened, and the Renaissance began, and that's what's going to happen again. Is this a plague? I don't know, but there was a plague. Everybody died. Things were a little, iffy for a while. They invented all of these machines. People didn't have to do those types of things anymore. People were freaking out. And then came the Renaissance.
Yeah.
And will it happen again? Yes, but there's going to be pain involved. Get ready for the pain. That's all I'm saying. I won't see it. I won't see the big pain. I won't be involved in the big pain. I'll be on the outside of the big pain. And I'll be going, wow, I can't believe it happened, in 5 years less than I thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So plan B.
Yeah, I know that I'll find, no matter what happens, you get scrappy. I grew up scrappy.
Be scrappy.
And I don't think anybody builds a career in writing without being scrappy.
Scrappy.
I think my freshman year in college, I was a journalism major, and I woke up quick, and God, very glad that I did. But I think as long as you stay scrappy, there should always be food on the table. It might not be as fun today for me. In 20 years, maybe I'm not having as much of a good time.
I wouldn't say that. I would say that, you'd be surprised on our resilience. And, the next thing will happen. We're looking at it right now going, what is that next thing? I don't know what the next thing is. But the next thing, there will be the next thing. Perhaps it will be that we'll be on Mars. We won't have to be writing, because we'll be desperately surviving in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, you know what? Being a colonist, not in a bad way, not in a bad way, not being used colonial or any of the negative terms, but being a colonist is a full-time job. What do you do for a living? I'm setting up, a whole new world.
Yeah.
So I'd say it's going to be Star Trek, the first Star Trek, where there was promise for the future, as opposed to any of the others where you're like, oh, this is not good. This is not going to end well. I have to think it's going to end well, because I do believe in the human spirit. But I think that a lot of the people that are jumping up and down for ChatGPT are missing the mark. They're very excited to use the next shiny tool, but they're missing the mark.
I agree. I hope there's a novelty factor that starts to wear off, and maybe it's not so much a novelty, but a tool for the tool set, rather than, the entire car you're jumping into and then you take off in it and buy. I hope that it's a car in the parking lot. I hope I'm rich enough that I have one of those garages that has 5 cars in it, and ChatGPT can be one of my cars, but I'd like to drive something else full time.
Yeah. There'll be rebirths and births of other things. You can't recreate the wheel, but look at how many different wheels we have. You'd think you wouldn't be able to create another wheel, but there's so many applications for the circle and what it can do that it boggles the mind. And, to think that, now it's created. What are we going to do? It's the circle. It's, the end of the world. It's been created already. What else can we do? The application is there. So if you're scrappy.
Yeah.
So be scrappy.
Always.
Be scrappy. Be scrappy, America.
Make America scrappy again?
Yeah, make it.
We're probably already scrappy. I should give credit where it's due.
I'd say we're going to definitely have to be very, very, very scrappy.
Scrappy bunch? Scrappy bunch.
Scrappy bunch. Come up with a bunch of scrappies. So now that we've depressed each other, and gone a little realistic, then thought that maybe it's it's not the end of the world, but the birth of a new world after the revolution. Before the revolution, where could people find you on the web?
Well, probably anywhere. If you want to read what I write, I'm currently doing it all at socketlabs.com. Pretty cool stuff happening there. And if you'd like to connect with me to kind of keep this conversation going, probably do linkedin.com/Nicky Copland. I'm always getting into something on LinkedIn. So
yeah, me too. I definitely
kind of fun.
Open mouth, insert foot.
Yeah, I have no chill. So that's where you can find me. I'm always happy to entertain a conversation and have a little laughy laugh.
Cool. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
It's been great. Thank you, Joy. I appreciate you having me.
You too. Well, everybody, another session ends and another one begins next week. So until that time, happy email marketing. Take care.